Gentlemen, thanks for joining me here in the arena. Let me begin by asking you both, are your two countries, which are now locked in this escalating war of words, this diplomatic tit for tat, closing down embassies, banning flights, are your two countries holding the region and the wider Muslim majority world hostage to your own rivalry, to your own struggle for power in the Middle East? Jamal Khashoggi.
Yes, we are. But of course, each one of us going to blame the other. How did this all happen? It all happened because of a simple reason: Iranians' expansionism. It is not the age of empire buildings anymore. It is the age of independent state, sharing borders, sharing respect, Westphalia's, and that's what we need from Iran. If the Iranians behave in the region like Turkey, like Pakistan, they will be very much welcomed. We will be doing business together. But Iranians are sending militias to Iraq, to Syria, participating in the killing of innocent Syrians. It's all about expansionism, not about anything else.
Seyed Hossein Mousavian, Iranian expansionism, says Jamal Khashoggi. That's what's led us to this point.
First of all, I don't believe Iranian government is after escalation of tension with Saudi Arabia. Everyone knows after Rouhani's election, Tehran approached many times to have direct negotiation with Riyadh on different issues. Where and why the problem starts really from the Iranian point of view is very different with what my friend Jamal says. It was known to Iranians, many Europeans, they told us during 2003 to 2005 that Saudis, they don't want peaceful solution on nuclear, they just want us to attack Iran. All Saudi angry is because of the nuclear deal. Clearly they were after creating a war on nuclear issue. Now Saudis are very worried about possible US-Iran rapprochement.
Jamal Khashoggi, it's less about the Syrian civil war. He says more about the fact that you object to the Iranian nuclear deal. Saudi Arabia doesn't want Iran being brought in from the cold.
Yes, of course. We don't want an aggressive Iran with nuclear power or free of sanction because of they are aggressive, not because they want a nuclear power. Our friends, the Pakistanis, have acquired the nuclear power, and we are not wary of them. But of course, we are wary of the Iranians when we see their militias chanting in the mosque of Aleppo and Homs and taking pride in the killing of people there in Iraq. That is something to worry.
First of all, Iran really believes the major threat to peace, security, and stability in the Middle East, in the region, is the rise of terrorism, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Jabhat al-Nusra, Ahrar al-Sham, Boko Haram.
Yes,
and
that's
there
true,
is now a very clear
them.
understanding internationally, Jamal, that Saudi Arabia and Saudi allies, they have a lot to do as the source of fund, source of weapon, and source of ideology to this extreme terrorism. This is number one. Second, Iran believes Syrian government was and is legal government of Syria, has representative United Nations, recognized by United Nations as a legal government in Syria.
Seyed Hossein Mousavian, let me ask you this. You point out that the world now is looking at Saudi Arabia's role in the rise of extremism, terrorism. That's undeniable. There is much more debate about that. But a lot of people in the Middle East are also saying, well, Iran is partly to blame for sectarianism because of the Syrian civil war. You look at what the Assad regime has done there in the killing of hundreds of thousands of people with Iran supporting him. Do you accept that Iran has also played a role in sectarianizing the region thanks to the Syrian war?
See, if there was not a weapon, money, and support for terrorists in Syria like ISIS, Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian crisis could be managed very soon at the early days. Of course, Assad made a mistake to react very angrily, brutally against the demonstrations in 2011. There is no doubt.
Jamal.
All right. First of all, Saudi Arabia did not send a single dime to ISIS or to Jabhat al-Nusra. We see them as terrorists. We are fighting them. We beheaded 44 of them just a week ago. So no way anybody can accuse Saudi Arabia of supporting or tolerating ISIS as much as the Iranians and Bashar al-Assad did in Syria. They need ISIS. They need ISIS to justify their presence.
But you have been accused of funding extremist groups, if not ISIS. You have been accused of funding other groups, haven't you? Hillary Clinton said so in a US cable.
Yeah.
She said Saudi Arabia is the #1 source of donations for quote-unquote Sunni jihadist groups.
Saudi private money, and we are suffering from that, and we are after every single penny. But the Saudi government is a fierce opponent to terrorism and radicalism, and it is being appreciated by the international community. But Iran is supporting a dictator.
You say that the international community appreciates Saudi's role in fighting ISIS. A lot of people in the West these days, politicians, journalists, diplomats, government ministers, are looking at Saudi Arabia and its beheadings, its treatment of women and minorities, and they're saying openly, we don't see that much difference between Saudi and ISIS. It's a point the New York Times editorial board made just last month. What do you say to them? It must worry you that people are saying that openly now.
No, execution is an execution. To hang people from a crane or to behead them with a sword, it is execution. It is brutal. But what we are doing in Saudi Arabia is we are doing that through judiciary, and we are only targeting terrorists or dissidents who are calling for violence. But we are not executing political prisoners.
Human rights groups have deemed Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr, this Shia cleric who was executed on January 2nd alongside a bunch of other al-Qaeda type people, they have said he was a political prisoner, and that's what's kicked off this current crisis. Do you think Saudi Arabia wanted this crisis? Did the Saudi authorities execute him knowing it would create this backlash?
Nimr al-Nimr called for a foreign power to take part, to be in charge of Saudi Arabia, and that is a major treason.
So you behead a non-violent political protester.
We also beheaded many non-violent al-Qaeda members. They had no blood in their hand, but they called for violence.
Did he call for violence? Did he call for violence?
This law
because Amnesty International, other groups say he didn't call for violence.
Yes, Nimr called for violence.
That's not what the human rights groups say. Let me just bring in Seyed Hossein Mousavian. What do you say to people who say, hold on, how can Iran criticize Saudi over executions when Iran is the only country in the Middle East which executes more people than Saudi Arabia, globally only second to China in terms of executions?
First of all, Iran criticizing of the recent execution because it was executing the leader, religious leader of minority of Shia in Saudi Arabia. It was really a big deal. It was really provocative.
When you talk about provocation, it wasn't just Ayatollah Khamenei who reacted quite hyperbolically, saying that there would be divine vengeance against Saudi Arabia, but President Rouhani said some pretty bombastic things about Saudi crimes on Twitter too. He's a good friend of yours. You're a close ally of his. Is he the pragmatist that we've been led to believe he is, or does he want confrontation as much as anyone else?
Look, Mehdi, Rouhani is pragmatist because immediately after assault of Saudi embassy in Tehran, first of all prominent Iranian authorities, they immediately condemned, from the head of judiciary, the head of parliament, president, even the commander of Revolutionary Guard. Second, immediately they have arrested 60 people during last days. Everybody unanimously has condemned the assault of against Saudi embassy.
How do you both propose to end this crisis? Do either of you have a solution?
The Iranians must get out of Syria, must get out of Iraq, sit with Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Pakistan, and let's work out a plan for a better Middle East.
And how worried,
that is the solution.
Okay, how worried should the rest of the world be about an open military confrontation? Not a proxy war like Syria or Yemen, but an open confrontation between Saudi and Iran.
They should be worried. They should be worried because each country doesn't want war. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Deputy Crown Prince, de-escalate, and he said we don't want war, but the proximity, the closeness, we are right next to each other, the hate, the anger, the killing, yes, they have the ingredients for a major confrontation. When you have militias fighting on behalf of Iran, and not only
on behalf of Saudi,
and Iranian militias, that is too close, which could lead to a war.
Seyed Hossein Mousavian, do you agree? Should we be worried about an open war between the two countries if there isn't a resolution?
No, I don't believe we should be worried. I don't believe there would be a war. We have to understand we need diplomacy like what we did on Iranian nuclear crisis. I mean, the way is for Iran and Saudi Arabia to have immediate, direct negotiations on security issues, bilateral security issues, regional security issues, and try to help to resolve the problem.
Jamal Khashoggi, if your friends in the Saudi royal court came to you and said, should we sit down with the Iranians around the table, have direct talks with no preconditions, would you say yes, go for it?
No, we need the Iranians to act. Hussein is talking peace and acting war. Iranians must get out. They must get their militias out of Syria as a goodwill. Then we can sit with them and talk peace and try to bring peace and security back to Syria. But they are fighting right now, as we speak right now, the three of us. Iranians militias
Jamal,
are fighting
on
in
Syria already international community have agreed what to do on Syria.
Let me ask you this. How worried are you about the sectarianism that has come out of the rivalry between your two countries that's now spreading across the Muslim majority world? The sectarianism, the Shia-Sunni war that everyone's talking about, as a direct result of the confrontation between your two countries.
Sectarianism is a tool of the conflict and a result of the conflict. The Iranians act in a sectarian way. They stand by a dictator because he's from the same sect. They fought with the Houthi because from the same sect.
And the Saudis don't do the same? The Saudis don't do the same?
Sectarianism.
Really? The Saudis didn't do the same in Bahrain?
Of course not.
The Saudis didn't do the same when you went into Bahrain on behalf of a Sunni king?
No, not at all. The Saudi went to Bahrain because the Bahraini government needed help, not because of
That's exactly what the Iranians say about Syria.
The Shia of Kuwait.
You both sound like each other when you talk about Syria and Bahrain.
No.
It's ironic.
Look, it is immoral. It is immoral to compare Bahrain to Syria. 300,000 people were killed in Syria.
I'm not comparing the death tolls. I'm comparing the language that is used and the sectarian angles that are used in this conflict. And I'm saying, are Muslims around the world, do you think they're tired? Both of you, do you think Muslims around the world are tired of this spat between your two countries that is affecting the entire Muslim majority world?
Of course, we are all tired of that, but we are not fighting along sectarian lines.
There's plenty of Saudi preachers. There's plenty of Saudi preachers, Jamal, as you know, who say some pretty awful things about Shias, Christians, Jews, Alawites.
Look,
you know that, I know that.
We got look. We got our crazes. The Iranians got their crazes, but we are talking about government to a government. We are talking about international politics here, not about a Saudi preacher or an Iranian zealot. We are talking about what Saudi Arabia is doing. Saudi Arabia is supporting peace and freedom in Syria and Yemen and fighting dictatorship, while the Iranians are standing with the dictators.
Jamal, frankly speaking, no one in the world would buy your claim that Saudi Arabia is for democracy. I would say the conflict between Shia and Sunni is a very important issue. We have to take it serious. Iran is playing a leading role on Shia world. Saudi Arabia is playing a critical role on Sunni world. Therefore, Iranian government, Saudi government, and Iranian clerics, Saudi clerics, they need to sit and to have a dialogue and to cooperate together to prevent conflict between Shia and Sunni.
Let's leave it on that note. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me in the arena.